What was supposed to be a night of celebration turned into disaster after 4 friends who were all drunk left the bar in the city without a designated driver. Designate a driver. Don't drink and drive.
This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Friday, the 10th day of January in the year 2025. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. At the site of the multi-billion-dollar gas energy project, the governments of Guyana and the U.S. EXIM Bank inked the deal on the $526 million loan that is expected to fast-track the project. 2 weeks ago, the board of directors at the U.S. Export-Import Bank provided final approval of the loan. The financing will support the construction of a state-of-the-art natural gas separation plant, a 300-megawatt combined cycle gas turbine power plant, and services related to the gas supply pipeline located at Wales on the west bank of Demerara. The project is expected to allow Guyana to transition to more reliable and cleaner energy for consumers and businesses by using natural gas to generate electricity. The project will also enable Guyana to strengthen its energy security by doubling the country's installed electric capacity and unlocking economic growth potential for local Guyanese companies of all sizes. Signing the loan agreement on behalf of the bank today was its president and chairperson, Rita Jo Lewis, who said the project aligns with the U.S. EXIM Bank's goals and priorities.
This deal, we believe, is a game changer, not just for Guyana and the United States, but for the people, businesses, and shared aspirations that unite our 2 nations. Together, we are taking bold steps to strengthen energy security, enhance environmental sustainability, and unlock economic opportunity. For Guyana, this project will double the country's installed electricity capacity, providing cleaner, more reliable, and more affordable energy for families and businesses.
The financing will support a U.S. joint venture involving Linsaka, a Texas-based company, and Puerto Rican small business CH4 Systems, and services provided by ExxonMobil. The work is being conducted by U.S. and Guyanese companies. Minister responsible for finance, Dr. Ashley Singh, noted the importance of the project receiving the support of the U.S. EXIM Bank through the provision of the loan. He said the project forms part of the government's vision to provide cleaner and more efficient and cheaper energy.
Core of our government's efforts to diversify the Guyanese economy and in particular to build a competitive non-oil economy, notwithstanding, of course, the importance and growing significance of oil in our economy.
Before this afternoon's signing ceremony, the U.S. EXIM Bank official met and held discussions with President Irfan Ali and the government team, along with officials from the U.S. Embassy here in Georgetown. More news coming up in just a moment.
It all starts with one. Maybe it's one look. You know the one. Or one touch. Even one word. I can start with one step. Or one promise. One thrill. One first time, one deep breath, one leap of faith, one day to remember, or one night to forget. One moment, so many stories that make up one crazy, average, everyday, fabulous life. We get one life, just one. Make your move. It all starts with one.
Your own home is so much more than just four walls, floors, and ceilings. It's a lifetime of great memories and stories. Come talk to us and start your journey home today.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Honey, what are you doing? Let's cash out. Let's cash out.
Shop $5,000 or more at any Massey stores for a chance to win a 2024 Nissan Qashqai Sense and $100,000 every 2 weeks with Massey Stores Christmas Jackpot Promotion.
Guyana, get ready for a special night of 70s soul featuring the Stylistics.
God bless you. You make me feel brand new.
And Blue Magic.
So let the sideshow begin. Hurry, hurry, step right on in.
Valentine's Day, February 14th. Save the date. The Stylistics. And Blue Magic, it's classic 70s soul, coming to Guyana Friday, February 14th, 2025. Don't miss it.
Make the world go round.
Embattled Assistant Commissioner of Police Calvin Brutus has filed a $1.6 billion lawsuit against the government over a diversity policy that he says exists in the Guyana Police Force and is discriminatory. In the lawsuit, which names the Attorney General as the respondent, Mr. Brutus details that in the last quarter of 2020, he attended a meeting with President Irfan Ali, Vice President Bara Jagdeo, and other government and senior police officials. And at that meeting, a directive was given by the Vice President that the structure of the Guyana Police Force should mirror the ethnic composition of the country's population. Brutus said the directive would be reflected in areas such as recruitment, promotions, and training, and was described as the government diversity policy. Brutus, in his court filing, said the policy was immediately discriminatory to members of the Guyana Police Force of African descent, as the force's ethnic composition did not mirror that of the Guyanese population. He said it is estimated that 90% of the police force's members are Afro-Guyanese. According to the senior police officer, immediately after the introduction of the policy, unqualified officers of the force were seen ascending to positions and opportunities ahead of other officers who were more suitably qualified. He said it became clear that the result of the policy was to line up officers of East Indian descent for top positions in the Guyana Police Force. Brutus explains in the case that hundreds of Afro-Guyanese police officers who were better candidates for certain roles were sidelined with preference for Indo-Guyanese officers. Detailing his own experience, the Assistant Commissioner of Police said in July of last year, he was informed that the Vice President Bara Jagdeo had instructed the Police Commissioner to transfer him to Special Branch and allow Assistant Commissioner Ravindranath Buduram to gain experience in administration. At the time, Brutus was heading the administration department of the force, and he said he is convinced that the decision to have him replaced was based on race. Brutus has said he's a mixture of Amerindian and African descent. He further detailed in the court documents that 1 week after he was transferred, he was informed by the acting police commissioner at the time that instructions had been received again, this time from cabinet, that he proceeds on administrative leave. He said on the advice of the police commissioner, he proceeded on annual leave instead. Days before he was set to resume duties, Brutus said he received a letter informing him that he is now on administrative leave. He said he was never given a chance to respond to any allegations before being sent on leave, and there was no proper investigation conducted before a decision was taken for him to proceed on administrative leave. He wants the court to declare that his rights were breached and that the government acted in breach of the Discrimination Act with its actions. He also wants the court to declare that the government diversity policy in the police force is discriminatory on the basis of race and is in contravention of the Constitution. Brutus is seeking an order of the court to discontinue the policy. The assistant commissioner, who remains on administrative leave, is currently before the courts facing more than 200 criminal charges related to allegations of being involved in fraud and other financial crimes. He has repeatedly declared his innocence of those charges. A number of bank accounts linked to him, his wife and toddler son, and companies owned by them were frozen by the court. More than $500 million was discovered in those frozen accounts. Well, the revelation by Assistant Commissioner of Police Calvin Brutus that the government has instructed a diversity policy in the police force has triggered a response from the opposition leader, Norton. In a court action, as we reported, Brutus is contending that the policy is discriminatory and seeks to elevate police officers of a certain ethnicity over others. At a press conference today, Mr. Norton said a similar policy now exists in the Guyana Defense Force, and therefore he has no reason to doubt that there is also one that exists in the police force.
So what I'm saying to you is this. One, I believe what Brutus is saying, but I do not have documentation as it relates to Brutus. Two, that I have documentation to establish that that is happening in the Guyana Defense Force. And by logical deduction, I don't see why they will do it in the Guyana Defense Force and not do it in the Guyana Police Force.
Norton said the issue of diversity in the Guyana Police Force has been exhausted, pointing out that traditionally, Indo-Guyanese have been reluctant to join the police force. He said he has no problem with diversity, but believes that PPP's policy is sinister.
No, I have no problem with objective criteria being used to create a level playing field. I have a problem with the PPP approach where it says that if you're going to get 10 officers, 7 must be Indo-Guyanese or 6, even void of qualifications. Look, we need a meritocracy. People should get jobs based on their ability and their performance.
The opposition leader also said he has received reports of the Guyana Police Force putting an entire recruitment process on hold after those being recruited were of one particular ethnic group.
But what the PPP is doing is seeking to ensure they put in the Guyana Police Force people who they can control, rather than seeking to develop a competent Guyana Police Force. The head of the police force they would have chosen was because they know he is compromised and he will be prepared to do those wrong things that they want him to do.
The government has so far offered no response to the claims by Assistant Commissioner Brutus, who said the policy was introduced just after the current government took office back in 2020. Former APNU Member of Parliament and PNC Reform member James Bond has thrown his support behind a second term for President Irfaan Ali as Guyana prepares to head to the polls later this year. On Thursday, during a visit to Bond's home community of Melanie Damashana on the east coast of the Marara, the president received the support of the opposition member.
President Ali is one person who's always remembered me. From since he was a minister, he's always remembered me. He's been a friend to me. And I'm giving you a second term. I said that publicly, sir.
Over the past few years, James Bond has been spotted on the cocktail circuit, hobnobbing with various members of the Ali administration, and has been a regular guest at state banquets and other formal state house events hosted by the president. Back in 2020, during the height of the standoff following the elections, Bond, who was a party agent for the APNU-AFC, had declared his distrust for PPP General Secretary, now Vice President, Barrett Jagdeo. 2 years later, following a meeting with Mr. Jagdeo, Bond declared on social media that when he returns to politics, he would be taking a few pages from from the book of the same Vice President Barra Jagdeo. Since the 2020 elections, Bond had stayed away from major party events, but re-emerged on the political platform during the 2024 PNC Reform Congress, where he praised the charge of party leader Norton and declared then on social media that it is clear that the PNC reform is vibrant and well positioned for 2025. He has been a close ally of PNC Reform Executive and former party chairman Waldo Lawrence, who is currently before the courts, along with others, facing election fraud charges in relation to the last general elections. Bond, who is also an attorney at law and businessman, faced fraud charges of his own back in 2021 under the current government over the alleged sale of lands that had been leased to him by the government holding company Nissil. He had declared his innocence of those charges and called them politically motivated by the Ali administration.
Guyana, get ready for a special night of 70s soul featuring the Stylistics.
God bless you. You make me feel brand new.
And Blue Magic.
So let the tide show begin. Hurry, hurry, step right on in.
Valentine's Day, February 14th. Save the date. The Stylistics. And Blue Magic, it's classic 70s soul, coming to Guyana Friday, February 14th, 2025. Don't miss it.
Make the world go round.
GCOM is currently conducting a claims and objections exercise to produce an official list of electors, OLE. If you were 18 years or over on December 31, 2024, and you're a Guyanese citizen by birth, descent, or naturalization, or a citizen from a Commonwealth country living in Guyana for 1 year or more, you are eligible for inclusion in the OLE. GCOM has posted the preliminary list of electors, PLE, in all of the registration divisions across Guyana for you to check if you are listed, and if so, whether your particulars are accurate. If you have changed your address since you were registered, you need to visit the GCOM registration office responsible for your new area of residence to apply for a transfer. Wednesday, January 15, 2025 is the last day you can apply for a transfer during this exercise. For more information, contact the GCOM on 2250-278-9 or visit www.gcom.org.gy.
Your own home is so much more than just four walls, floors, and ceilings. It's a lifetime of great memories and stories. Come talk to us and start your journey home today.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Monster, bust the flavors. We're full of flavors. Bust the flavors, that my crave for. We're full of flavors. Tell your neighbors about the bust the flavors. Grab a bust the flavors. Yeah, thirst buster, grab a buster. Bust the flavor, taste the savor. Buster, bust the flavors. Buster, bust the flavors.
Well, opposition and PNC reform leader Norton today said he's not worried about the decision by party member James Bond to endorse President Irfan Ali for a second term. He said Bond is free to throw his support behind any candidate, but he knows there is no support base that will be heading behind Bond. Norton said the PNC reform remains intact.
Everyone will be concerned if somebody isn't supporting you. The question is not that. The question is it going to impact you to the point that it affects your success? And here's where I'm saying it wouldn't affect us to the point where it impacts our success. Like I said before, there are many who left.
The opposition leader said he does not believe that Bond's support of Ali will have any impact on the PNC.
I have no doubt that there will be a cohesive party. I am engaging all members of our party, may I say this to you as well? A party like ours has a history, and that history and institution, those two will help us. So I'm not worried about the cohesion, and we will work to further unite the party. Now, not everybody that run out there and says something against the party is indicative of a lack of cohesion in the party.
Last year, James Bond threw his support behind Mr. Norton when he was contesting for the leadership of the PNC reform. Bond at the time said he was confident in Mr. Norton's ability to lead the party given his decades of service. Looking ahead at this year's elections, Mr. Norton said he has no doubt that his party will head into the elections as a united party.
While I don't trumpet much about myself, I'm saying this to you. If there are criteria identified for candidates, I'm dead sure I will fit it at least 90% more than many people who people believe are likable. And the question of likable can also be restricted to class. And one reality is that some in the middle class, they have the tendency to try and create a narrative, and then everybody must fall into that narrative.
The PNC reform has been engaging a number of opposition parties on the upcoming elections and areas of mutual interest. He intends to meet with the Alliance for Change and the Working People's Alliance soon. The University of Guyana has requested $14.2 billion from the government to finance its operations both at the Turkine and Tain campuses, as the government has now abolished all tuition and other fees at the country's national university. The request represents almost 3 times the amount that the institution was allocated last year. Education Minister Priya Manak Chan today said a number of factors will be taken into consideration as the request by the university is considered. She told reporters that there is a concern about whether the university is offering value for money.
We have to look at efficiency at the university too, right? So it's not just what you get, it's how you spend what you get and whether we're getting full value for money. You have people in this room, and again, I'll keep my eyes on you, who have complained that they have not been able to go to a single in-person class, that late in the term classes had not even begun. So we also have to look at some of those.
Minister Manak Chan reminded that the government has been funding the education sector heavily in its national budgets since taking office. Last year alone, the University of Guyana was allocated over $5 billion. Almost the same amount was allocated to the government's online learning initiative, which allows qualified students to attend virtual classes at a number of overseas universities. The education minister says she has been in discussion with the leadership of the University of Guyana and has reminded the leadership of the expectations. UG's Vice Chancellor Dr. Paloma Mohammed has repeatedly expressed the need for greater support to advance the work of the University of Guyana. Mohammed had stated that contrary to reports, the country's premier tertiary educational institution was not being reduced to an online academic institution. It was explained that as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, the University of Guyana, like many other institutions locally and internationally, was forced to provide its services virtually on a temporary basis. Today, the university is offering hybrid classes. It was explained that although the pandemic has ended, the university continues to offer hybrid programs, allowing students to attend classes both in person and virtually. 2 days after the Guyana Elections Commission promised free, fair, transparent, and credible elections this year, the leader of the Alliance for Change, Nigel Hughes, today scoffed at the statement and explained that the statement from GCOM does not offer any confidence to the electorate. He said his party is maintaining its calls for a total reform and overhaul of the elections body before this year's general elections.
You would have to be possessed of the most creative imagination if any institution, after having admitted the errors that GCOM has admitted recently, after having failed to rectify the Dr. Kissoon issue solely as a result of their own recommendations, after having a slew of missteps and after having had every election challenged for some reason or the other that anybody would repose any confidence or attribute any credibility to any institution like GCOM.
The two largest opposition political parties, the PNC Reform and the AFC, have already said they have no confidence in the Elections Commission to execute credible elections this year. Mr. Hughes said today that GCOM has consistently demonstrated its inability and incapacity and cannot expect Guyanese to take any statement from the current body seriously.
We would like to repeat everything that we have said before in relation to GCOM, including having the chair of GCOM resign, step down from her position. We are now in 2025, and on GCOM's admission, we have a person sitting in the National Assembly and continuing to sit in the National Assembly who, as a result of their error, ought not to be there. And they have not had the decency to provide to this country any course of action they intend to take to rectify their error.
Earlier this week, the Elections Commission condemned insinuations that the Commission is colluding with persons to rig this year's elections and promised a transparent process. The Commission said it will continue to execute its constitutional mandate to deliver free, fair, and credible elections. The body of the Chinese national who fell to his death in the Demerara River while working on a new bridge project was recovered this morning. The Ministry of Public Works identified him as 39-year-old Fu Jin Wei. His lifeless body was discovered by the Coast Guard of the Guyana Defense Force, which was leading the search operations after the man fell overboard 2 nights ago. The Guyana Police Force and the Ministry of Labor are both investigating the incident. The Chinese national was reportedly offloading material from a barge for the construction of the new bridge across the Demerara River when he fell overboard and was swept away by the current in the river. He was employed with one of the companies working on the bridge project. In expressing his condolences, Minister of Public Works Juan Egil emphasized the government's commitment to worker safety and admonished the contractor to ensure that all safety measures are implemented to guarantee the well-being of all the workers for the remainder of the project. Guyana recorded a 60% increase in workplace deaths last year.
GCOM is currently conducting a claims and objections exercise to produce an official list of electors, OLE. If you were 18 years or over on December 31, 2024, and you're a Guyanese citizen by birth, descent, or naturalization, or a citizen from a Commonwealth country living in Guyana for 1 year or more, you are eligible for inclusion in the OLE. GCOM has posted the preliminary list of electors, PLE, in all of the registration divisions across Guyana for you to check if you are listed and, if so, whether your particulars are accurate. You can object to anyone who you believe does not qualify for inclusion in the OLE. To do so, you must be listed in the same divisional list as the person you are objecting to. You must visit the GCOM registration office responsible for your area of residence to make an objection. The objections aspect of this exercise will end on Wednesday, the 22nd of January, 2025. For more information, contact the GCOM on 225-0278-9 or visit www.gcom.org.gy.
Guyana's economy is rapidly transforming, and we're all part of it. Guyoil is at the forefront of this development by providing reliable and efficient energy and supporting community development from the very core. 100% of Guyoil's profit goes back to building schools, roads, and other important infrastructure that connects our cities and towns, providing fuel to domestic, marine, industrial, and aerial transportation. Guyana has now repositioned itself as a market leader in the petroleum industry, building a better future for all of us.
What was supposed to be a night of celebration turned into disaster after 4 friends who were all drunk left the bar in the city without a designated driver. Designate a driver. Don't drink and drive.
It all starts with one. Maybe it's one look, you know the one, or one touch, even one word. I can start with one step, or one promise, one thrill, one first time, one deep breath, one leap of faith, one day to remember, or one night to forget. One moment, so many stories that make up one crazy, average, everyday, fabulous life. We get one life, just one. Make your move. It all starts with one.
With your regional and international news tonight, I am Svetlana Marshall in the region. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, whose nearly 12 years in office have been marked by deep economic and social crisis, was sworn in for a 3rd term today. Despite a 6-month-long election dispute, international calls for him to stand aside and an increase in the U.S. reward offered for his capture. Reuters in a report said Maduro, president since 2013, was declared the winner of the July's election by both Venezuela's electoral authority and top court, though detailed tallies confirming his victory have never been published. Venezuela's opposition says ballot box level tallies show a landslide victory for its former candidate, Edmundo Gonzalez, who is recognized as president-elect by several countries, including the United States. International election observers said the vote was not democratic. The months since the election have seen Gonzalez fly to Spain in September, his ally, Maria Corina Machado, going into hiding in Venezuela, and the detentions of several high-profile opposition figures and protesters. In the latest in a series of punitive steps, the outgoing Biden administration increased its reward for information leading to the arrest or conviction of Maduro on drug trafficking charges to $25 million from a previous $15 million. It has also issued a $25 million reward for the Interior Minister and a $15 million reward for the Defense Minister, as well as new sanctions against 8 other officials, including the head of the state oil company PDVSA. It's a super year for politics in the Caribbean region, as general elections will be called in several countries where constitutionally due. Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Suriname, Guyana, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines are among the larger CARICOM countries, which will command the attention of the region as voters either choose to keep current governments in power or decide whether it's time for a changing of the guard. Many of these governments during their tenure would have contended with the effects of COVID-19, increasing gun violence, and natural disasters, coupled with the effects of climate change. And finally tonight, international news. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump will not go to jail or face any other punishment for his criminal conviction stemming from hush money paid to a porn star. A judge ruled today, but said Trump's January 20 inauguration would not erase the jury verdict. Justice Warren Marchant's sentencing of Trump, 78, to unconditional discharge places a judgment of guilt on his record and closes a case that had loomed over Trump's bid to retake retake the White House. Trump will be the first president to take office with a felony criminal conviction. The judge said he was imposing the sentence sparing Trump jail time, a fine, or probation because the U.S. Constitution shields presidents from criminal prosecution. But he said the protections afforded to the office do not reduce the seriousness of a crime or justify its commission in any way. Trump pleaded not guilty and has vowed to appeal the guilty verdict. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Svetlana Marshall, wishing you a pleasant evening.